Hello, everybody. Tyrone TG3 here. Pocket the Monster. Hot Eye Zones. Episodes 84 and episodes 83 and 84. Sorry about that. Episodes 83 and 84. Episode 83 is titled The Truth Revealed and Matheo's Resolve. And episode 84 is The Place Where Heaven and Earth Meet. So, these two episodes. Now, technically there's an episode after this that isn't quite high stakes, but I went ahead and I'm going to make all of the Rakua / it's called Lakua, I guess because that R and L difference. Anyway, I'm going to make all of that into one chunk. I'm going to review all of that as one chunk, and I'm waiting till next week to do the review of that. Like, I'm waiting till the episode airs and then reviewing all of that as one chunk. So, even though I know the first episode 85, is very low stakes compared to the rest of the episodes, I'm going to lump it in with that, and that one will probably be a short review of that, and then the main thing will be like the other episodes that follow. So episode 85, 86, 87, 88, and 89 are all going to be together in a chunk. Those will all be reviewed at once. So that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll be 5 episodes reviewed into one major like clump. Meanwhile, though, I feel it's important to go ahead and do episode 83 and 84's review just to get them out the way. Episode 83 definitely has more of the plot in it, whereas episode 84 is more or less just, it's another, I would say this is a breather episode. It definitely feels like it's out there compared to the other ones. It feels like the stakes got dramatically lower, and it definitely also feels like it's very much a transition. Like, it feels like there's everything that they could do in order to slow it down, which is an episode I honestly feel could have been contributed a little bit more to Rayquaza. Now that I start to think about it, Rayquaza being fought in one episode kind of bugs me. I feel like Rayquaza is a 2-episode worthy boss fight, but it's already done. There's nothing we can do about it now. Pokemon Horizons 83 literally is mostly an Amethyst episode, as the title is stating already. But we do get a lot of like, I love when the crew gets together, the Rising Voltacklers crew. I like when they get together and start making like assumptions or start trying to gather up information. Like, you know, those moments where they're usually sitting in that meeting room and they're drinking tea or whatever and they're all talking. Here, they don't really sit in the meeting room to drink tea, but they do all get together and start talking. They do even break out some donuts and they start eating donuts and stuff. We do get to see some fun little like them interacting moments that honestly work, because I just like when the crew gets together, and it definitely helps for the characters that aren't Liko, Dot, Roy, and Freed actually be a bit more involved in the plot. Because sadly, they are the ship sitters, is what I call them. They sit on the ship and just wait for the exciting stuff to blow over until they come back, and then they can start doing their jobs too. We get a lot of like weirdly scientifical phrases used in here to a degree that honestly helps out the conversation and makes it progressive. They all try to wonder what the Raccoon does because they only have exposure to it once, and that's from Liko battling a Pokemon that had Raccoon in it, which was Spinel's Umbreon. And they learn that it makes them more powerful, but they want to know why they want control of it. So they end up discussing a lot of things. They end up discussing about cells and how, like, even though every Pokemon in person has cells and those cells can like rejuvenate obviously over time, and we get new cells and old cells every time, which brings to the conclusion of what the Raccoon does. The Raccoon probably just keeps the cells eternal, and that's how Gibion's been able to stay alive for so long. And I like that they're the ones that picked us apart. They didn't have to figure this out from like the enemies telling them. They didn't have to like look at a book. They didn't have to talk to somebody that existed 100 years ago. I like this. It's them sitting down and literally talking this over, and everybody tossing in information all at once. And then some event that happens nearby helps them bring up the idea. And I like that Molly's the one that mainly contributes because she's a doctor. So she knows like scientifically how people in Pokemon are broken down. She ends up like giving that information to them. Freed is able to deduce like that should be the case if that's like what cells do. Like every character is able to like really contribute to a conversation, and the ending result becomes the theory that, well, okay, the reason this is possible is because the cells are being rejuvenated all the time. So something in Rakua must allow the Pokemon to live almost eternally, or at least people you live eternally. But if that's what it does, then there's got to be something a bit more harsh about this. There's got to be something a bit more dangerous going on than just this. So they got answers, but they don't have solid answers, and that's why they want to head to Rakua. We cut to Ametheo's plot, which is the main one. And while Ametheo is trying to dig up some research on the Rakuum as well, him and his two subordinates end up getting caught. They learn that Spinel is going to betray him afterward. Like, Spinel's going to betray Gibeon right afterwards in order to gain the Rakuum for his own needs. So since he knows that, he's going to do everything he can to try to stop Spinel from doing what he needs to do. But they end up getting caught, and they're brought at a warehouse. They're brought this way because they don't want Gibeon to figure out that his grandson got taken. So they wait it out. And when they wait it out, they end up getting released again, but this time by Hamber. And when Hamber shows up, he has all their Pokemon and he gives them all the information. He leads them back to Ametheo's home, where we actually get some lore on Ametheo's mother. And Pokemon went dark. Like, darker than dark. So, earlier, a few episodes back, I praised Pokemon Horizons for being able to really, like, open up a family tree with some of these characters. Because in Ash's series of Pokemon, they didn't even want to tell us who Ash's father was, barely giving us Ash's mother, where she shows up on occasion, and that's it. Here, we get Leeko's great-great-grandmother, great-grandmother, grandmother, mother, father. We get all her whole family tree. So I'm like, kudos, Pokemon Horizons. Thank you for putting depth into these characters so that we can look at them through a three-dimensional scale and not be stuck in Pokemon's old ways of keeping stuff relatively PG and ambiguous because it's a kid show. Here, we get Amethyeo and we see the picture of his mother, which covers like the stairway area, and he's like, that's my mom. And then he just tosses this out. He goes, she died in a car accident. Like, damn! Pokemon! Like, Pokemon! What are you doing? This isn't Pokemon! Pokemon doesn't do this. This isn't Pokemon's way. People don't die in Pokemon. They disappear. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Yes, I know there's episodes that cover characters that die in Pokemon. I'm not stupid. But they never really, like, get morbid about it. They never really talk about it. Usually it's like, they died a long, long time ago. Like, stuff like that. Something that really, like, there's no imagery about it. It's just they died a long time ago, blah, blah, blah. The person who owned this house, this haunted house, died hundreds of years ago, blah, blah, blah. So they're no longer here. And then when it gets dubbed, they go, they disappeared. Because everybody disappears in the dub version. Here, he's like, she died in a traffic accident. I was a baby when it happened. I don't care. Like, bro, it gets rarely deep. It gets weirdly deep. Weirdly deep. It gets morbid for no reason. They didn't even have to do that. He could have just said she's been gone for a long time, or she died a long time ago. He said she died in a traffic accident. Bro, Pokemon never does things like this. But yeah, we skip over that. Well, we don't skip over it. The characters just sort of like go, ah. And he's like, don't get sad about it. I was like 3 when it happened. And we do see a picture of him with his mother. He's like 3 years. He's like this tiny and stuff. And yeah, like we do get it. And it's nice. And we also see Ceruledge as a Charcadet. It's nice. We a lot of fun like Ametheo lore we're getting. Hamber tells them about pretty much stuff we kind of already knew, but he's telling it from their perspective, so it seems a lot more like Gibeon's in the right. But that's because it's their family. They're going to talk in that perspective, and I'm glad they did that. I'm glad Hamber wasn't going, your grandfather is evil, and we must stop him, and blah, 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 blah. Like, no, the main problem is Spinel. He's the issue. But he's the issue because he's planning to betray Gibeon. Gibeon's the only one out of all the Team Explorer members that wasn't trained under Hamber. So Hamber can't trust Gibeon. Gibeon is, for as far as he's concerned, is the main antagonist. Spinel, sorry. Spinel is the only one that's the main antagonist. Spinel's not trained under Hamber. Spinel wasn't watched over by anybody except Gibeon. And also Hamber states that he keeps one of the Zygarde cells on him because his partner was Zygarde. Well, it turns out Zygarde betrayed Gibeon in that fight because what the Raccoon was doing to the ecosystem wasn't normal. It's not natural. So if it's not natural, Zygarde is an ecosystem-based Pokemon. If the world acts in a way that's un-Earth-like, Zygarde doesn't like it, which is why he betrayed Gibeon. That one of the Zygarde cells split and attached itself to Hamber, and it trusts Hamber. So he keeps it as like a backup. Will it be relevant towards the plot? Maybe towards the final episode. We don't know. But as of right now, that's pretty much what we got going on. So that's what we got. We learned that the Raccoon has the ability to pretty much allow him to live forever. He's been using the Raccoon as life support. He's even got this like tube in his neck where once he absorbs the Raccoon stone's energy, it keeps him on life support. And it turns out that like everything else was sealed off. And that's pretty much what's been going on for years and years and years. That's why we get what we got. Amethyl is hell-bent on saving his grandfather, Gibeon. So he goes off to Rakua along with his subordinates. And I like the fact that he actually he invites them. Because back then, and earlier in the series, he didn't even want his subordinates to be with him a lot of the times. Like, if they showed up, they were mostly just pursuing Terapagos. And that's it. Like, they were pursuing the pendant because it wasn't Terapagos yet. And that's pretty much all they would do. But if it's got, deeper, then he wouldn't even, bring them aboard. Now he's like, yo, you guys come in, and before he even gets to say it, they're already on board. So I like that. I do like that camaraderie he shares with his teammates. They pretty much head off to Rakua along with Hamber. Overall, this episode, honestly, I like the fact that it was very lore heavy. I like the fact that it went deep into it. I like the fact that it's showing it from the villain's perspective, or the somewhat villain's perspective, because he's clearly transitioning into a non-villain at this point. And I like that Amethyl has found his own self, where in this situation, he's like, my plan is to be me, no matter what. It's not about Team Explorers. It's not about Rising Volt Tacklers. Not about none of that crap. It's I'm me. And I like that he's grown an attachment to his Cerulege because he saw Umbreon in pain when it was using the Raccoon. So he's like, yo, this Raccoon stuff, it gives you power and it gives you eternal cells, but it comes at the price of your partner writhing in pain. And I never want to see people that are attached to me writhe in pain. And then he looks at Cerulege. So I like that. I like that they decide to really stamp that down, that his bond with Cerulege is the thing that's getting him to do the right thing. It's what Pokemon's originally supposed to be about, so it makes sense. Then they head off to Rakua. We cut back and go to the next episode with our heroes. They're headed to Rakua. Now, they have to stop by a village that's right below Rakua. And they have to do this because the Brave Asagi can't go any higher. It can't go to much higher altitudes, because if it does, it's going to get destroyed. I'm not sure how true this is. I've never flown a giant air balloon, or I've never flown yeah, that's what it would be, right? Anyway, I've never flown a giant flying aircraft balloon, or a dirigible, I think is what it's called. I've never flown one, so I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know how true this is. It's very also obvious they did this because they need to whittle the team down and slow things up a bit. They can't have everybody go at once, and they definitely can't have them just show up to the plot. And then also, if you want to use an in-universe reason, it's to keep people probably from flying up there. It's hard to get there via aircraft because an aircraft can't fly that high to get there. I get the point. It's dangerously obvious they want Liko Dot, Roy, and Free to walk the rest of the way so they can have a little bit of distance between them. So yeah, they go to a village. When they go to the village, they end up in a plot A where this boy is stating that when the Black Rayquaza flew towards that area, it's automatically disastrous. It means that the world's going to end. They get into an argument, mostly Roy and the kid. I can't remember the kid's name, and I'm not going to try to. He's not important. I mean, he's important, but not important for the overall plot. He has a Noibat that's missing. He can't find it. He blames our heroes for it. Freed states that he's going to talk to this old woman that's in the village because this old woman is 103 years old, which means she's actually seen Black Rayquaza fly up to Rakua once before already. So she may have some info, although she knew this stuff when she was 3, so I'm not sure how her memory would be, but whatever. We're taking the show's word for it. So he goes to talk to the elder. And the funny part about him having a conversation with the elder, she has dentures. So every time she talks, she mumbles because her dentures aren't in. And her son, or grandson, I don't know. Anyway, he can like translate it all. But then eventually when Free talks about more deeper stuff, she grabs the dentures, pops them in her mouth, and she is just able to explain it from there. The other plot that we were talking about, they go in the cave, and the reason they split up is because they didn't want too many people to overwhelm the old lady. She's like 100. So when they go off to the cave, they go to the cave because they heard some screams in the cave. They end up meeting that boy again, and the boy ends up meeting Noibat. Because of that, they also end up getting ambushed by a horde of Vibrava. And fun fact, Vibrava's name in Japanese is Vibrava. So it's the same as English. Cool. Anyway, the Vibrava end up attacking them. They all work together. Noibat uses Dragon Claw in order to make a path so that they can all run out. It's a very simplistic plot. The boy thanks them and states that he was probably wrong about like saying those things to them. It's very Pokemon formulaic. Yeah, this one is definitely like we're following the status quo of a Pokemon episode. It's not trying to do anything too elusive or too crazy. It's by the books. It's about as by the books as Pokemon can realistically get, especially for Horizons. It is a Ash series Pokemon episode. It's thing happens. I'm surprised they're able to condense it into less than 15 minutes. But then again, that kind of shows you how simplistic that formula is. Literally, we have a whole second half of the episode. Yeah, a whole second half. Literally, we cut to commercial, we go to the next part. The second half is them in Rakua. Or them traveling to Rakua. They go through and they, like, traverse through Rakua. They go through all these, like, they climb the mountain. They work their way through all of the, like, obstacles there. And they end up in Rakua. That's it. Like, I wish I could say that there was a lot more to it, but it's not. Like, for the most part, what they wind up doing is, in order to get to Rakua, Terapagos winds up calling each of the ancient Pokemon, and they essentially start being HM slaves. Except Galarian Moltres. It does something different. But yeah, you end up having, like, Lapras use Surf. You have Kleavor use Rock Smash. You have Entei use Strength. Or, not, Gouging Fire. Use Strength. You have, each of the Pokemon wind up just doing their, like, their usual HM slave things. With the exception of Galarian Moltres. Galarian Moltres winds up using its Merciless Flames move and just drains the energy from the Pokemon that they're about to attack them. I'm not sure that was needed, but they needed to like show off that every last 6 Heroes Pokemon was used in a way in order to get them to Rakua. But yeah, it's I'm giving the episode a 4. It's basic. I feel this is filler. I can't even like deny it. I can't say it's anything more or less than this. It's filler. It is straight up filler. It's about as filler can realistically get. It's not deep. It's not them going into. It's filler. Like let's call it what it is. It's a filler episode. Let's not even pretend that it's anything less than that. As far as the Amateo episode from before, if I had to give it a ranking, I'm definitely giving it a solid. I'll give it a solid 7. It earns a 7 to me. I think it was really good to have all of that backstory. Yeah, and it's good development for Amateo. I think it's solid. I think it's really solid. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They finally arrive at Rakua in the next episode, or Lakua, whatever you want to call it. They finally arrived there, so that means we'll be covering all of those episodes of them being in Rakua. So that'll be episodes 85 to 89. And I believe episode 89 is supposed to be a 2-parter. So it's supposed to be like 89 and 90. It's supposed to be a 1-hour special, is what they said. I'm not 100 on that, but that's the idea. And the idea is literally supposed to be that it's ending things out right there. So I won't be reviewing that until next week, so don't worry. That one won't get a review until much later. And then I'll finally be caught up with Horizons. Yeah, that'll be it. I'll be caught up with Horizons. You all will finally be up to date on Horizons reviews. All right. So, with that being said, thank you all so much. And thank you so much for your support during this week for the Horizons Marathon. Honestly, the plot's been thickening and getting like bigger and better. And I've been really invested into what Horizons has had to show off. And it was really fun binge watching a lot of these episodes so I get the chance to actually like talk about them finally. And looking back at like episode 1 of me reviewing Horizons, it's crazy to think that the adventure would bring them to this point. And that's something they point out actually in the next episode, but I won't review that yet. So I'll see y'all then, everybody. Tyrone TG3